Your Women Radio WFM 91.7, Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families. You're welcome to today's episode on Women Voices for Peace. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and today we're discussing the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. The role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. According to the UN Women and UNDP 2020 report, the poverty rate for women is expected to decrease by 2.7% between 2019 and 2021. Projections now point to an increase of 9.1% due to COVID-19 and the fallout of the pandemic. Gender inequality, limited access to credit, healthcare and education have posed a number of challenges for rural women, which is what they're going through. Meanwhile, the global food and economic crisis, along with climate change, have only further aggravated the situation. This is why it's imperative that we speak and discuss on the subject of the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. Once again, this is not a one-woman conversation. I am with my guest today, Ambassador Prudence Edward Gogo, public administrator, community development practitioner, and influencer for women in politics and gender-based violence, and coordinator, Voice of Women and Self-Empowerment Initiative. Good afternoon, Ambassador Prudence. How are you?
My sister, good afternoon, ma. It's a pleasure being in your midst.
I appreciate the sound of that. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. The phone lines are open and you can contribute at any point in the conversation. The phone lines to call are 07000 917 917. You can also try the alternative number 0902 562 5455. Once again, 07000 917 917 and 0902 562 5455. We're also social on Instagram, Facebook at WFM 917. That's the handle at WFM 917. You can also listen to us live wherever you are via the stream link www.wfm917.com. www.wfm917.com. If you're just joining us once again, this is Women Voices for Peace. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and today we're discussing the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. The role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. And I'm speaking with Ambassador Prudence Edward Gogo, public administrator, community development practitioner, also an influencer for women in politics and gender-based violence, as well as coordinator for Voice of Women and Self-Empowerment Initiative. So, Ambassador Prudence, talk to me a little bit about what the role of rural women is in food production and eradication of poverty.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that the rural women are the sources for food production and key agents for development. In our society today, women play very vital role to make sure that food is on the table of the common man. We look at what is happening today among the UN women, which usually mark the UN Day in the areas of food production. We look at International Women's Day for Rural Women, which usually comes up on
October 15th.
October. The World Food Day, which is on the 16th of October. International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, which was held on the 17th of October. Women as farmers produce food for consumption, herbs for medications, etc., etc. But the women are usually faced with some challenges such as limited access to credit facilities, health care, education, gender inequality. Women are great farmers, but are limited in agricultural development, and which leads to what? Poverty. And how do we eradicate poverty? Well, we can eradicate poverty whereby looking at how the challenges being faced by women in food production can be reduced to minimum. Thank you very much.
I like the way you put that. How the challenges that rural women face in food production can be reduced to the barest minimum. Now, you mentioned that when women, that rural women are a huge factor when it comes to food production and agricultural processes. And that is another way that they can use to eliminate poverty. But they also have limitations. Now, some of these limitations when it comes to poverty, because we're talking about that earlier, women are prone to a lot of dangers like domestic violence, sexual abuse, and rape when poverty comes up. You know, they always say that the love of money is the root of all evil. Some people like to say money, not the love, just money is the root of all evil. It's open to interpretation, but the truth of the matter is money plays a large role in every single day-to-day activity that we do, which is why the subject of poverty is extremely important and cannot be taken away from conversation when we're talking of rural women or even women in general. Now, when it comes to that, women are prone to a lot of dangers like domestic violence, sexual abuse, and rape. Now, how can women protect themselves in the process of getting daily needs? How can we protect ourselves to not be endangered or to reduce to the bare minimum the effect of such dangers in the process of getting our daily needs?
Well, to me, I believe that women need to learn some defensive skills, having weapons by themselves whenever they go to the farm, such as weapons like sticks, but not gun, by their side, should in case the issue of sexual abuse or rape comes up when working on the farm. I would like to say that women also need to be security conscious and always avoid farming at night or whenever it is dark. They should always go to the farm when it is bright enough for them to see any images that is forthcoming towards them. They should also be informed and search for information, on happenings around their environs. Before the bandits or before the terrorists can strike or disturb women in the rural areas while farming, I believe that some would have gotten the information while some might not. But, in our country today, insecurity has grown to the highest level that the common man can no longer sleep. So, rural women need to be security conscious about their life when going to farm. They should also, because they are farming to produce food for the country, then their lives should be at stake. Civil societies, they should also collaborate with civil societies within their environs. We have female farmers, I know the Action Aid usually train rural women on modern farming methods and storage facilities, prevention of insects on damaging the crops. So what I can say is that women should learn defensive skill, and always have a weapon. It can be a sickle. Anyhow, they should just try, and see if a man wants to rape them or exploit them sexually. I believe that through combating or hitting the man at a spot that will make that man unconscious or scream, the woman will be able to escape for her dear life. Thank you.
Thank you very much for putting it in that way. Thank you very much. Now, I'm interested in how poverty affects mental health. We always talk about how important money is, but how much more important the high rate of poverty is. And I say much more important because as much as money is important, it is more important that less people have money than the people who have. So it should be foremost when we think about poverty in Nigeria that there are some people who have it worse off. And in a lot of situations, just like you rightly said at the beginning, men may be placed in different positions or may be the ones bringing the money home, but women are the ones who arrange the money, spread it around, make sure that it meets daily needs, and as well as fulfills other individual and collective financial responsibilities that the family needs to meet. So all this toll, all this responsibility on the woman, particularly tied into money, either the presence of it or the absence of it, how does all this affect the mental health of a woman?
Wow. You know that poverty is a leading factor or challenges to women's mental health, whereby affecting women psychologically, throwing them off balance. They don't reason well, they don't think well, and again, poverty also increases the risk of mental illness by leading women to depression, anxiety, and making them take substance that can endanger their health and make them addict to some things. You can see, I can also say that poverty also affects the mental health of the rural women by creating stigmatization and intimidation for women. You know, women see themselves as a secondary citizen. Their confidence is being lost. And when a man or a woman does not have money, people believe such an individual cannot think straight. It affects them in their reasoning. And what they reason is what they produce. So we see that
20 minutes past the hour of 3 on Your Women Radio, WFM 91.7. Still discussing on today's episode of Women Voices for Peace, still discussing the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. Again, the role of rural women in food production and poverty elevation. Poverty eradication, pardon me. Now, these subjects are slowly but surely intertwined. You can't talk about food production with rural women as a focus without talking about eradication of poverty, because to a good extent we're aware that a lot of women in that grassroots area are victims of poverty or are going through poverty or have seen what this ground level of poverty looks like. In a conversation with Ambassador Prudence Edward Gogo, public administrator, community development practitioner, and influencer for women in politics and gender-based violence, and coordinator, Voice of Women and Self-Empowerment Initiative. So we were talking about how poverty affects mental health of the woman. That's what we're talking about.
Yes. I had rightly said that the poverty affects women psychologically. You know, creating when there is no money. As rural women that are farmers, they need money to buy seedlings. They need money to purchase land whereby they can grow their crops. They need money for fertilizers. They need money to be able to update their farming method into mechanized farming. And whereby these are not forthcoming, you see depression sets in, anxiety. When there is no money, the rural women ends up not thinking reasonably. That's my summation.
You're very right about that. And it is a sad side effect of poverty on women, which in a lot of ways, with empowerment, with education, with more and more enlightenment, we can actually break away from this gap. We can break away from this situation into more economic advantage as women. Now, talking about economic advantage, economic empowerment, how can cooperative organizations contribute to economic independence and empowerment of women in Nigeria today?
Well, we have a lot of cooperative organizations. We have a lot of cooperative societies. Even farmers, rural women have their own cooperative society whereby they aid and empower themselves, assisting the rural women in agriculture so that economic independence and empowerment for Nigerian women will be ascertained. And you see the role of cooperative organization or agricultural bank to make sure that women thrive in farming. We can say through their role, they assist women in savings and giving of loan to aid their farming. Most especially when the women want to buy equipment for farming, or they intend to buy the materials they will use to plant or maintain the land. The cooperative organizations or the agricultural banks also promote women business skills, entrepreneurship through enlightenment and trainings. We have so many cooperative organizations, agricultural banks that apart from giving them loans, they train and retrain them to modern ways of farming so that they can improve the ways they handle their farm methods and increase in production. Whereby the agricultural banks, a cooperative organization, can also assist in empowering or aiding rural women with farming equipment and modern storage facilities. Some of them can decide to say, we facilitate this project and we decide to give you equipment that will aid your farming. And again, the cooperative organization also mentor them to make sure they are up to date with the modern farming techniques and also to teach them how to prevent diseases, insecticides, so that their products will not be at waste. I think that is all I have to say for that.
I appreciate your comments on that. I really do. So once again, I want to encourage more people to listen in and to make their phone calls if they have any suggestions or any contributions on Women Voices for Peace today. We're talking about the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. I'm speaking with the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. I'm speaking with Ambassador Prudence Edward Gogo, public administrator, community development practitioner, and an influencer for women in politics and gender-based violence, and coordinator, finally, Voice of Women and Self-Empowerment Initiative. So once again, We've talked about how poverty can affect the mental health of women. We've also talked about some of the things that they face in the process of getting getting their daily bread, income concerning services or products sold. Basically, we've talked a lot about how poverty plays a role. Now, I want to ask that, knowing the extent in which poverty as a factor is a massive factor, knowing the extent to which it's a big factor, how can organizations and even civil societies as well do more in carrying rural women along in economic empowerment schemes such as agricultural production? For instance, Ambassador Prudence, you mentioned the fact that though women are doing a lot of farming, they're not doing it in that large way that can cater to more people.
Farming.
Exactly. That can cater to more people, that can foster importation. It can create jobs for a lot of people. It can create a big market for a certain kind of product, a certain kind of crop that is not as popular as it should be now. So looking at it from that point of view, how can organizations and civil societies do more in carrying these rural women along with their economic empowerment schemes, such as agricultural production?
Well, we have lots of organizations, civil society that are mentoring rural men. We have lots of agricultural consultants that deem it necessary to carry rural women along in economic empowerment, whereby mentoring the rural women, as I rightly said, in areas of capacity building, like trainings, workshops, seminars, These days we see a lot of people being taught how they will export their product. We want our rural women to get to that level whereby production of foods will be in mass, large quantity to feed the country, and also think of exchange rates, exporting products to gain more profit. We also look at the civil society can also assist in the assessing of loans. The Yoruba usually say, the rural women are poor, and we need to state that. Or else they are being assisted with loan facilities, they go nowhere. And apart from that, as I rightly said, that these organizations and civil society can also facilitate giving them farming equipment, modern farming equipment, fertilizers that they can use to grow their products, to make them produce large quantity of food for the country and for export. And again, we look at the areas of education. They need to be educated on their saving skills, business and saving skills. A lot of them are still operating in the past. Being a rural women, they need to understand that apart from farming, after you must have farmed, you must sell those products. That is business to make money. And after making money, you will use some back into the business and keep some as profit, whereby you need to save for the rainy day and use it to increase production of farming products.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Prudence. So, I am of the opinion that financial freedom, economic advantage, economic empowerment is something that you cannot take away from the conversation. And because of how important it is, I want to ask you how you think women in rural areas can be enlightened on the need for financial freedom, especially, Ambassador Prudence, especially for the girl child. How do you think they can be enlightened on the need for financial freedom, especially for the girl child?
Now, looking at the girl child, which I believe the girl child are still much younger than the rural women, we need to inculcate in them that ability, that knowledge of saving. You know, a lot of our young girls these days believe that once they get money, it's for spending. And once the girl child that is in the rural area farms, you should be able to have the knowledge, the knowledge of business and saving. We need to awaken their consciousness on terrorism and kidnapping. Most of our young girls might be afraid to follow their mothers to the farm. We need to awaken their mind that even though they find themselves farming, they should be conscious that terrorism, bandits, kidnapping is a key thing happening in the environment. And we need to bring to their consciousness that they should not allow some of these bad, negative people in the community, like the terrorists, the bandits, to buy them over. You understand what I'm saying? We have some terrorism. Some people that are being used, some of these young girls are used as informants for some of the bandits that comes around to destroy farm products and give them information on how to have access into the community. So we need to teach them business skills, saving methods, and the need for them to know that farming as a career is beneficial to the girl child and to the society at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Prudence. So in line with this same question I just asked you, you mentioned some of the challenges that they go through that affect their food production, the limited access to loans, access to funding, even the fact that there's a cultural point of view around women doing the farming and all of that. So with all these limitations on all these challenges, what changes need to be made? What institutional or societal changes need to be made to help in improving food production and, of course, to economically empower women in Nigeria? What institutional changes, what social changes would you recommend to be made in improving food production and encouraging economic empowerment of women in Nigeria?
We want the government to come to the aid of women farmers to make them have access to land. Let them be owners of land. Some of them have this land on lease. Some of them pay to plant some crops for some given period of time. We want to see the Ministry of Agriculture and the Agricultural Development Bank assisting women become landowners. And we also look at gender equality. What is applicable to the male should be applicable to the female. They should assist the female farmers just the same way they assist the male farmers.
They should assist the female farmers just the same way they're assisting the male farmers. This was Ambassador Prudence Gogo's response to the question I asked earlier about institutional and societal changes that need to be made in order to improve food production and the economic empowerment of women in Nigeria. She's basically making us understand the fact that the government has to step in terms of implementation of policies, of existing policies, and they also need to create new policies where needed to be able to augment some of these challenges that these rural women face in their day-to-day activities that inform the quality of food production and the level of poverty that they experience on a day-to-day basis. Now, regardless of the fact that we're focusing on rural women, this also applies to women generally. This also applies to women generally.
Women need education. It can be an informal setting whereby women need to be educated. Let them have a knowledge of agriculture, methodology of planting, skills of operation, knowledge of sales, knowledge of exporting their products, and most importantly, they must maximize profit. Then again, I can say that the need for women to access credit facilities, most especially, women, the rural women are poor. So, I appeal to the government to always make sure that they have a second thought about rural women. They should make sure rural women access credit facilities. And again, the women that really need this credit facility should be given. It should not be based on nepotism, but it should be based on the fact that the rural women, registered or unregistered rural female farmers, once they know that such a woman is a farmer, they should deem it necessary to assist them. Because as they are assisting them, they are also assisting the society. And most especially, again, you look at their health care. In that community, what healthcare services is being rendered for the rural women? Do they need to have access to a private hospital or a public hospital? Government should please provide healthcare services for farmers, because farming is a tedious and hard labor job. So the women, after tilling the soil, planting crops, they need to take care of themselves. And again, I would like to say something, that women's rights, they should not deprive women from their rights. Anything that is necessary for women, once you empower the rural women, you will see the issue of hunger and poverty in the community or society will be reduced to the minimum. But when you deny women of their rights and opportunities, you also end up affecting and denying them, their children, and the society a better future. So we need to think twice on how our women should be given equal resources like the men, to contribute much, so that the issue of undermarriage people, poverty, eradication can be reduced in the society. Okay?
Of course.
And again, let's see how we can also make women, give them opportunities and choice to be part of the people that shaping laws. As farmers, they should also give them the benefit of doubt to hear from them when laws are being made regarding agriculture, policies and programs. You can invite them, have a town hall meeting and hear for them the challenges they are passing and what they need to improve rural farming. I believe all this goes a long way to increase food production.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I like how you put that. All these things go a long way in increasing food production. I want to ask you, what are your final words? I know that today we're speaking about rural women. We're speaking about the role, rather, of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. Some people don't understand that rural women, we're not talking about it just because we want to put rural women in the spotlight. We're talking about it because we want to recognize and appreciate and prefer solution to challenges that they face in their in the process of these activities, in the process of producing food, packaging it, selling it, turning it into a business, just the entire process of eradicating poverty from the level that they stand at as we speak. So this is why, in case you're listening, this is why we're discussing this topic today. Now, I want to hear your final words, but let me ask for context when it comes to certain things as you say your final words now. So, rural women and participation in food production, rural women and their efforts in eradicating poverty. These two things are things that we cannot take away from the scope of this discussion today. So I ask you, Ambassador Prudence Gogo, that what is your immediate practical solution as regards rural women and how they can take the agricultural processes that they're involved in now from this level to the mechanized level? What's the first thing that, if you had capacity, what's the first thing that you would do to change that?
Well, to me, I will encourage our rural women to belong to cooperative societies, because we have a lot of cooperative society encouraging women to partner with them so that they can take them from where they are to the next level of mechanized farming. And again, rural women need to come to four clusters as a group where their interests can be protected and they agitate for their rights, and also see how they can access the opportunities at the local government level, the state level, and also the national level, because we have the Minister for Agriculture that has various programs for female farmers to access and benefit from such programs. That is how it is also applicable at the state level and the local government level. All we need them to is to annex and collaborate with the government to see how they can move from rural farming into mechanized farming. I have seen and I have also witnessed. Of recent, a few months ago, the Lagos State empowered so many female farmers. Some of them were given the opportunities, those that were rearing fish. Mm-hmm. They were given drums and the feedings. Some of them that it depends your area of specialization. Some were eggs. I was there, I attended a program whereby the Lagos State government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, assisted lots of women farmers. They gave them fertilizers, gave them different products that can aid them improve production so that there will be food for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ambassador Prudence Gogo. It's been a pleasure having you on Women Voices for Peace today. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, Ambassador. Empowering women economically would go a long way in redressing a lot of the societal vices and also helping to reduce poverty in the society, especially in food production in Nigeria. Some days in this month have been set aside by the UN to celebrate or to commemorate certain women, certain sects of women, and certain areas in life generally. For instance, the 15th of October, last week Friday, was International Day of Rural Women, International Day of Rural Women. Then the 16th was World Food Day, and the 17th was International Day for the eradication of poverty. For the eradication of poverty. These days are set aside to be commemorated significantly because of the importance that these days hold in the lives of people generally, but specifically in the lives of the roles that all these individual sects, such as the Rural Women Day, play to make society a better place. We cannot do anything without food. Food is something that everyone needs. So we cannot take away the role that rural women play when it comes to providing these foods, when it comes to providing food, when it comes to farming, when it comes to agricultural processes, when it comes to just production of food generally. We can't take away their role. And as important as it is that we talk about a lot of other things, we also need to recognize and acknowledge the roles that they play. Because outside of that, there's a lot of other things that they're involved in. But this forms a basis for a larger picture, which is food production. And this affects you, it affects me, it affects the world in general, which is why it needs to be discussed. Linking it to eradication of poverty, we know that once the challenge of food production is settled, to a large extent, that eliminates poverty in the way that if there's a lot more food will not be as inaccessible and as expensive as it would be. So people will not have to spend so much to be able to get food. And when there's more food, there's more access to food, it becomes cheaper and less people go hungry by the day. So this is part of these are some days that have been set aside for observance and commemoration by the UN this year, and these days have passed. But we're definitely having this conversation in remembrance of some of those days, the role of rural women in food production and poverty eradication. So once again, I appreciate my guest, Ambassador Prudence Edward Gogo, public administrator, community development practitioner, and influencer for women in politics and gender-based violence, and also coordinator, Voice of Women and Self-Empowerment Initiative. In conclusion, taking away from today's episode, empowering women economically will go a long way in addressing a lot of social vices and also help to reduce the level of poverty in the society and in turn the world, particularly bringing it home to Nigeria when it comes to food production. Women Voices for Peace is sponsored by WANEP, West African Network for Peace Building, with support from the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD, and Women in Peace Building Network, WIPNET. Women Voices for Peace holds every Tuesday on Women Radio WFM 91.7 by 3 p.m. And in this respect, I want to say a big thank you to the engineer on duty and production crew of Taiwo Adeleye, Dabira Uluagbile, and Victoria Uwaifo. Join me again 3 p.m. next week here on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. My name is Somto Titilayo Ajamma. Thank you very much for joining us and have a wonderful day.